Ever feel like time just slips away? What if I told you that for 8 whole minutes it didn't just slip away, it stopped completely for everyone on Earth and nobody noticed? This is the story of Arden, a brilliant but slightly obsessive young scientist who stumbled upon the impossible. It all started with a flicker on his smartwatch, a data spike that made no sense. He was running a private experiment, a little side project to create the world's most accurate atomic clock, something he wore on his wrist. Most people would have dismissed the anomaly, blaming it on a bug or a satellite glitch. But Arden was different. He saw patterns where others saw chaos. He cross-referenced the data from his device with every public network he could hack into. Global satellite feeds, city surveillance systems, even the atomic clocks that govern our digital world, they all had it. A perfect 8-minute blank space. It was as if someone had hit a universal pause button. Cars on the highway, birds in mid-flight, people taking a sip of coffee, all frozen in a single instant, only to resume 8 minutes later with no memory of the interruption. It was the biggest event in human history, and it was completely invisible. But here's where it gets really strange. While the rest of the world's technology went dark, Arden's experimental watch kept ticking. It was designed to be a closed system, isolated from external interference, and it worked better than he could have ever imagined. It not only recorded the time freeze, but also captured something else, something that shouldn't have been possible: movement. Within that silent 8-minute void, his device registered a faint, rhythmic signal. It was a positional signature, a trace of something, or someone, walking, moving through a world that had become a statue. Arden felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with his lab's overactive air conditioning. Who could move when time itself was standing still? Driven by a mix of scientific curiosity and sheer disbelief, he spent the next 48 hours glued to his monitors, fueled by nothing but lukewarm coffee and adrenaline. He couldn't just have this data, he had to understand it. He wrote a complex algorithm to scan global network archives, searching for similar positional signatures during that exact 8-minute window. He expected to find nothing. A glitch in his own device was the most logical explanation. But logic had just left the building. The results started pouring in, and Arden's blood ran cold. His algorithm found matches. It's not one, not two, but 37 identical traces in major cities across the globe. London, Tokyo, New York, Dubai, all showing the same impossible pattern of movement. It was as if a single entity had taken a leisurely stroll through dozens of frozen cities, all at the same time. The data painted a picture of a phantom presence, weaving through motionless crowds and traffic, its footsteps the only thing making a sound in a silent world. Arden tried to make sense of it. Was it a coordinated event? A new form of technology he didn't understand? He replayed the data simulation for his own city, zooming in on the path the entity took. The trace started at the edge of town and methodically moved through the streets, getting closer and closer to the city's center. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He ran the simulations for the other cities. The paths were different, but the endpoint of each one was unclear. The signal just stopped. He decided to focus on the trace nearest to him, overlaid it on a live map, his heart pounding with each click of the mouse. The path was eerily precise, moving down streets he knew, past landmarks he saw every day. And then he saw it. The final data point, the last recorded position of this impossible traveler, was right on top of his own building, right on top of his lab. He reran the analysis, convinced he'd made a mistake, that his own device's proximity was creating a false positive, but the numbers were absolute. The entity had walked through a frozen world and ended its journey right at his doorstep. Why? Was it coming for his device? For him? Just as he was about to dive back into the code, his encrypted phone rang. It was a blocked number. He hesitated, then answered. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, and utterly chilling. It was a man from a government agency so secret, its name sounded like a parody. They knew about the time freeze. They called it the Great Pause, and they knew Arden had the only data from inside it. They didn't ask, they told him. The car would be there in an hour. He was to bring all his research. They wanted to safeguard his discovery. Arden felt the walls closing in. These weren't people you said no to. They weren't asking for his cooperation. They were demanding his life's work. The line went dead before he could even process a response. Panic set in. He needed to hide his data, make a copy, something. Mind raced as he scrambled to back up his files. As a last resort, he decided to check his lab's own security feed from the day of the freeze. Maybe it captured something before the power cut out. He pulled up the footage from the hallway camera, scrubbing back to the minutes leading up to the anomaly. The timestamp read 2:52 p.m. The freeze had occurred at 2:54 p.m. The hallway was empty. Just a sterile corridor of closed doors. God. He watched, his finger hovering over the fast-forward button, and then he saw him. A figure walked into frame, heading toward his lab. The person was wearing the same worn-out hoodie and jeans Arden had on right now. The gait was familiar, the nervous energy unmistakable. He watched, mesmerized, as the figure stopped at his lab door, entered a key code, and slipped inside. It was him. He was watching himself enter his own lab. 2 minutes before time stopped, a wave of nausea washed over him. His memory of that day was clear. He'd been in the lab since morning, running diagnostics. He hadn't left. He hadn't come back in. This was impossible, a doppelganger, a trick. His eyes darted from the security footage to his main computer monitor. A new file had appeared on his desktop, one he didn't create. It was a simple text document titled Read Me. With a trembling hand, he clicked it open. The message was just 6 words, but they hit him with the force of a physical blow. You caused it. Don't run the experiment again. His breath caught in his throat. The experiment. His wrist-worn atomic clock, the device that was supposed to perfect timekeeping, had somehow broken it. He looked from the chilling message on the screen to the device on his wrist. It was still running, its display glowing faintly. But something was wrong. The numbers weren't counting up. He held it close, his eyes wide with a new kind of terror. The seconds were ticking. Backward. The stopwatch he had started just that morning was unwinding. 1 second at a time, counting down to a moment he now understood with horrifying clarity. The traveler in the frozen time, the person who had walked through cities and appeared at his lab, the man on his security camera, it was him. He was about to send himself a message. The past and future were colliding on his wrist, and he was standing at the epicenter of a paradox he had created. Time hadn't just stopped. He had shattered it. It was just starting to piece itself back together in the worst possible way. What would you do if you discovered you were the cause of the very mystery you were trying to solve? It's a mind-bending question, and it's just the beginning. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the impossible, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge reality. See you next time.